Alright. And then let's just go in the order. First up we have Chargeman Ken on Blu-ray. Something about this seems familiar, so I'm not sure if I got this before on Blu-ray or not, but well, I have it now. Well, it looks like Japanese with English subtitles only. Yeah. That's, I think seems to be region A, which is what I would expect. It looks like the cover can be inverted if you want to. I can see why they would go with this one for the outside, but I do like when the insides and the outsides differ. So let's swap it around. Maybe just a little bit higher, just to make sure it's all underneath the plastic. And voila! Next up, we have a well, I know it's Novice Alchemist, and I think it's a. There we go. Yeah, that's of a management of a Novice Alchemist, which seems like okay. It mostly had trouble, I guess, keeping my attention. But it's a cute little show, and you know, it might be something that you'll learn too. Let's see. That's it's English dub, region A only, all 12 episodes on 2 discs. Blu-ray. Next up we have either season 2 or part 2 of this. And I'll be honest, I'm having trouble kind of reading that font right now. It's Tsurune. The Linking Shot Complete Collection. This is a whole thing. Why did I think this was a part 2? Oh well. Nice straightforward release. And then on the back here, let's see, that looks like Japanese with English subtitles only, region A. We've got Street Fighter 2, the animated movie on Blu-ray 4K. Not that I'm too excited by Blu-ray 4K, but I think I've had people who pointed these out before, and sometimes I overlook them. I don't have a 4K player, so I guess it's just not that important to me. And it looks like it has not only an English dub, but oh yeah, English and Japanese. Okay. Of course it doesn't say region. This is Blu-ray 4K. It might be a completely different set of rules. Different in the slipcover, which is always nice. A single 4K disc. And it's an invertible cover, but if you like you know, them being different like I do, then that's probably the ideal loadout right there. Next up, we have Aim for the Ace. What does that actually say? Another match. Oh, so this is a movie? You know, it probably says back here, Japanese with English subtitles only. No, 13 episodes, so maybe it's another season. Can you still walk onto the court? I don't know. Different underneath the slipcover. Always nice. Did I comment? I don't know. It looks like it's Japanese with English subtitles only. Fist of the North Star, The Legend of the True Savior, Legend of... This is an OVA collection, I think. Or is it? I'm trying to remember. Amazon might have said. I'm just blanking. That said, if we take a look at the back, that's English and Japanese, so it's dub and sub. Region A. Yeah, not a reversible cover. But that's okay. This kind of feels like it's like the official art for this release. Just put it into Blu-ray form. Last but not least, we have Crying Freeman. The name sounds familiar. I almost wonder if this was something potentially hard to get. Yeah, I don't know. So we've got English dub, we've got Region A, we've got different underneath the slip cover, which is nice. Looks like a little tiger versus dragon going on there. Oh, maybe I did have this on DVD. Hard to remember. Oh well, it's been a long time since then, because look at all these Blu-rays. You know, here's this week's anime Blu-ray collection update. Alright, so going down the list, with my Friday friend, I watched episodes 5 and 6 of the Goblin Slayer dub. Now this is season 2, episodes 5 and 6. And I guess it's okay. I guess if this Goblin Slayer season seems to have like 3 story arcs in 4 episode chunks, I'd say the first arc was okay, not bad. The second one was a little, not exactly meh, but kind of leaning a little closer to that. I guess there were neat events happening in the world, not like mind-blowing, but just kind of neat. Oh, our characters are part of this stuff. That's kind of neat. But I suppose the stuff that makes Goblin Slayer shine didn't feel like it shined as much in that arc. But I do have to say, you know, latest arc, looking forward to it. It seems to be setting things up better. And I guess that covers the subtitle version, Season 2, Episode 9, which I think is right there. Yeah. And then there's Rising of the Shield Hero, dubbed version, Season 3, Episodes 1 through 2. Something about the voice acting feels not as Season 1-ish. Not necessarily bad, but yeah, I enjoyed how the first couple of episodes worked. Still kind of do. It feels like it's at a better place than where Season 2 began, and especially better than where Season 2 went. But I've commented about those a whole lot. What about the latest episode? The latest episode, Season 3, Episode 9. It's stuff, but I think this season is showing some of its weakness, because while it is kind of cool stuff, you know, you go back and rewatch Season 1, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why I like the show. I liked watching our main characters do stuff, whereas this one isn't even really about our main characters doing stuff. Now, it is interesting to rewatch the dubbed episodes and see a few things. It's like, oh, this is when they introduced that character that I didn't really notice until they started throwing them in my face later in the season. But, I don't know. It's not insultingly bad like I felt like Season 2 started becoming, but it's still one of those things where it's like, this isn't the best of it. Season 1's still the best where it's at. Season 3 is mostly okay. Season 2, yeah, if you stopped at Season 2, yeah, it was just bad. Almost objectively so. That doesn't necessarily mean that people wouldn't find things that they liked about it, or some people may actually like it. And, you know, sometimes you have to admit that when you like eating garbage, you like eating garbage, and you know, there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. But it's just objectively bad in that, you know, the pacing, you can say, is not designed to do that. It's the writing in Season 2 definitely leaves stuff. But, you know, people who like Season 2 probably like it for some reason other than those. And that's fine. Let's see. Going up, I actually didn't watch Hulk Episode 20. I suppose the name of the episode sort of put me off, and I've been putting it off, but here we are, and it's nearly midnight on Monday, and I just don't have enough time to watch it, so yeah, I'm not giving up on the series, but I guess I'm kind of hoping for the name of the next episode to inspire me a little bit more, and then I watch 2 episodes of that. The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent, Season 2, Episode 9.
I guess I'm definitely very curious about what it's really setting up for the end of this season to do. It's hard to really describe exactly what I mean by that without spoiling the season, at least the season up to this far. But yeah, I don't know, kind of curious. The Eminence in Shadow, Season 2, Episode 29. I would say it's mostly a silly episode. There may be some important stuff going on, but this episode seems to be super highly dominated by our main character saying things while he's thinking to himself, but just happening to say things to other characters that they interpret a convenient way for the more serious side of the series, to a certain degree. I wouldn't call it a bad episode. I would just say it maybe isn't the most awesome episode, but definitely a curious setup in terms of where it's going to go, and at least leading in a direction that feels very story important. So it's okay, I guess. My Daughter Left the Nest and Returned an S-Rake Adventure, Episode 10. Let's see, what exactly were my overall feelings on this episode? I mean, there's just kind of neat things about it. It does feel like it's building up to a theme, an idea. And I do really appreciate that about this show. I'm just mostly curious how it's going to execute whatever it's about to do. It's Dr. Stone, Season 3, Episode 19. Nice enough. I do have some qualms with some of the ideas that happen in it, but yeah, it's okay enough. Yeah, okay enough. I guess I'm interested to see where it goes from here, though. I'd say after episode 19 is the parts I'm looking forward to the most. I already mentioned Rising the Shield Hero episode 9 and Goblin Slayer episode 9, so The Kingdoms of Ruin episode 9, I guess a kind of interesting episode. I also sort of feel like it's a kind of stupid episode. I don't know. Maybe there's some elements of the show that it thinks it's smarter than it actually is. Because it's like, oh yes, humans did these things in order to eventually kill themselves, I guess, in this one area. And it's just like, maybe I would have accepted that if it was Kino's journey. It felt like they weren't traveling to actual places, but maybe traveling to places where the series explored ideas that were in and of themselves absurd. But no, it feels like in a show about revenge, it's like, is it trying to say, oh, well, maybe this is something humans can do to themselves? And there's a part of me that looks at it and says, show, I feel like you think way too highly of yourselves. It's not necessarily a bad episode or a bad idea, but it's just, I don't know. It's a show that I felt was better when it was about revenge, and that episode wasn't about revenge. Or even about the follies of revenge or anything like that. Freeman, Beyond Journey's End, episode 13, is that right? I'd actually say a pretty amusing episode. It began in a much more amusing way than I would have guessed. I wasn't quite sure what it was trying to do, but then once it revealed what it was trying to do, it's like, okay, that's pretty amusing. And I'm definitely interested to see where it's going to go from there. You know, the show, I didn't expect it to introduce new characters, and I guess, spoiler alert, this one kind of does. I mean, it probably does, but at least it kind of does. And they're a fun group of people. I want to see more. Ragnar Crimson, episode 10. I guess a good setup episode, and really good insofar as, like, the previous episode was interesting enough for introducing these new characters and seeing Crimson kind of handle stuff, but you know what's even better than that? Watching Crimson just be a shithead, for lack of better words. And, you know, he did some of that, and, you know, Ragnar was in there, and it was, I thought the dialogue and the interactions between the characters was amusing, kind of an amusing distraction, but an amusing one. Vexations of a Shut-In Vampire Princess, episode 9, was delayed a week. Faraway Paladin, Season 2, Episode 9. actually, I really like the stuff that happened in this episode. It's definitely this season has been neat seeing another character develop as a character, as a person, their goals, kind of realistic stuff, and it being under the tutelage of our main character, which is what makes it work out so well. And it feels like it was just a good setup for what this season is trying to do. And maybe in the next episode, I don't know how many episodes are supposed to be in the season. If it's 12, then I'm wondering what the next couple of episodes are going to be like, because I guess I don't know what to say without spoiling too much more than maybe I already have. Futureba, episode 9, was delayed till next week. I Shall Survive Using Potions, episode 9. Strange episode. Entertaining enough from a potions perspective, and as usual, for some strange reason, never really being... It has the same sort of spirit personality, but really just doing something really different every single episode. Not staying tied to one thing. Very interesting. Tsurune Empire, episode 9, surprisingly setting up something that would be... I forgot to scroll down. Tsurune Empire, episode 9, surprisingly not being too distracted by its shoujo elements like it felt like that one episode was, and actually digging a lot deeper in the fundamental premise. I'm not sure how much deeper, but it's definitely setting itself up for... I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Spy Family, episode 34. If there's anything about this that I would say was a little off, it was that it did feel like, okay, it gave all of our main characters, other than Bond, of course, but Bond's barely a main character. He's a beloved character, a member of the family, but he's barely a main character. Everybody else are the ones with somewhat more autonomy and stories to tell, at least for the moment. Maybe they'll do one that's a very Bond-centric one that's not him about to die from eating yours cooking. But, they basically gave all three of our characters stuff to do, stuff that's really neat and fun to see them do. They're really good at what they do. And it actually had one incredibly touching scene in it, too. So, overall, and that wasn't the only thing that was necessarily touching about that episode, but it did have one incredibly touching scene. So, overall, pretty good. If Returner's Magic Should Be Special, episode 9. Let's see. I guess it was okay. Again, I kind of have this complaint where I'm having trouble telling if the show's gotten distracted from its fundamental premise, but it was entertaining enough. I guess the action is okay. Maybe a little too showy, I would say, because it did some stuff where it's just like, I guess that's really neat looking. I just don't understand how that's supposed to help. And then they kind of tell us afterwards how it's in theory supposed to help, but it feels like an explanation after the fact as opposed to the show necessarily being clever. But it's not as horrible as some of the things I tend to complain about. So, overall, okay. Berserk of Gluttony, episode 10. What happened in this episode? Definitely not Count Dooku. He was in Star Wars, but, he was Christopher Lee, so you kind of got to worry about that. Berserk of Gluttony, episode 10. Entertaining enough stuff, I guess. Not sure if it felt direction forward, but maybe a slight direction forward to a certain degree. It's really hard to tell, because it's hard to tell what forward means in this show. But, I guess overall okay. That one girl, though, I don't really like her. Even her interactions outside of the main character, they're in the middle of, place where there could be potential enemies. They're in a place where they're not necessarily well seen by people, and she has to scream like a fucking idiot. I'm like, you might just give away your position and get attacked because you did that, you fucking moron. I don't know. It's mixed. Shangri-La Frontier, episodes 9 and 10, which I guess dealt with all the stuff in the Prismatic Forest and that. It's okay stuff. I enjoyed episode 10 more than episode 9. It's neat stuff, I suppose, but at the same time, it's hard to feel too invested in a lot of stuff that's happening in the game because, okay, it's our main guy and they're trying to do a thing and it's kind of cool, but the stakes aren't really there. There's no real consequence for stuff. They did introduce something that I think is supposed to be a bit of a consequence in episode 10, which I guess could be setting up for something to happen in the finale. But, yeah, and I just thought of that because that was the last thing I watched before I started recording this video. Maybe it is, but for me, most of the entertaining stuff was actually seeing our main character interact with other people from the world, because those are the only things that they've established have any real meaning or consequence to them. In other words, you know, they may tell us this or that, but it's like, but you haven't told us why this or that is important, and from fundamental premise, like they can't do something like Vermo did, where they're like, well, these may actually be real AIs and not just well-programmed NPCs, because, you know, well, they act really, really well, and they could have gone that route. They haven't gone that route, and if they pull it too late, then it's too late. But I digress. 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, episode 9. I'm hoping I'm keeping up with the numbering of these things. What happened in this episode? I guess... Oh, speaking of bitches that I fucking hate, yeah, I want to skin that piece of shit alive. What a fucking hypocrite. She doesn't know how much of a hypocrite she is, but she's just a fucking control freak. It's not one of our harem characters, so fortunately, once the show deals with this, which I guess this could be it dealing with a potential season finale sort of situation, things will probably be back to fine. But I have to admit, it made trying to finish the episode a bit stressful. And I think the only reason I was able to power through it is because I was waiting to go to bed, to be honest. I ended up not watching Dark Gathering episode 22. Again, it just... I'll talk about why I lost time. It's a silly reason. I mentioned Vermo episode 10. It's okay. I actually thought it was kind of funny, just because of the main characters interacting with the thing. Although, at the same time, still kind of waiting for the show to do anything beyond just the hints that there's something more serious going on. But I guess if you're used to watching the show and not seeing anything consequential happening, and the show's not really pretending like it's anything that great, then I guess it's kind of okay. I can't really tell you how it compares to Shangri-La Frontier. I think Vermo, I'm a little more curious about, just because I'm expecting it to actually do some interesting stuff. Whereas Shangri-La Frontier, I've just kind of accepted it hasn't. Ron Kamonohashi's Forbidden Deductions, episode 10. I would say a simple but interesting episode. Maybe setting up more characters, which is weird, because I kind of wonder what it's planning to do with all these potential characters that it keeps setting up, and maybe only using them a little bit here and there. Is it going to use a whole lot of them for a finale, I wonder? If it is, it's a little late in the core to be doing that, which makes me think that it's not going to do a season or series finale in the next couple of episodes. I guess we'll have to see. And then finally, Dead Mount Deathplay, episode 21. Interestingly enough stuff. And it helps that it stopped switching away so much. It's done it a couple of times, but not... It doesn't feel like it's doing it as much to try... it's tying threads that are coming together, but not exactly like interrupting the main thread like a couple of episodes ago. It's dealing with stuff that's kind of more important. You're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. It seems to be setting something interesting up, so okay enough, I guess. Hard to say whether or not I'm super excited for the ending, though. And I don't know if it'll be the series ending or if it'll be a series ending. But I guess we'll have to find out. So yeah, I mentioned, I didn't catch up on as much stuff. The main issue is, I guess with last week and me finally being outside of, so I was on PTO 2 weeks ago for Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving, of course, meant there was a lot of work. But the week after all of that, that's when I had the energy to resume trying to do stuff in VR chat, and my goal was to try and finish some stuff, which I think I got close enough to call it finished by this weekend. And you may be like, okay, well, you still had a weekend to watch stuff. And then what ended up happening was now that that main thing was done, the next thing I want to do with my avatar is put some more animations on it. I've got some of my dances that I've made before that I just felt like I really want on there. And then I wanted to also pad a couple of other things, and so like I could have put my Megalovania animation on there. I was a little trepidatious to do that, mostly because I don't know, it requires a lot of particle systems, and I don't know if I can replace those. And there's a very real possibility that I want to revisit remaking the animation, maybe not exactly from scratch or something like that. But if I do that, then I don't want the shorter version on this avatar. Not that I'm anywhere near working on that. It's something that I've always hypothesized that I might try to do. But, yeah, I don't know. Things to think about. But it basically meant that I at least spent the weekend putting 3 animations on my avatar. That may not sound like a lot, but part of the reason it was slow was one of those was the Ivan polka. You know, it's been around for a long time. Miku Hatsune also sings it, or maybe she's the only one who sings it. I don't know. But, you know, that was one of the animations, not one of the ones I made, but kind of one of the ones where it's like, it's kind of nice. I'd like it on my avatar because it's a neat song and I want to hear it. And I was already working on a different animation getting on there and trying to reuse some existing assets to kind of reduce the impact of adding this one to the avatar. And in doing that, I'm like, you know what? I want to take this Ivan polka dance, but I'm going to do 2 things. First of all, I had one that I've been putting on a couple of my avatars, but I had another one that I hadn't really looked too much into. I think I initially looked at it and I'm like, it doesn't seem that much better at the very beginning, and it looks like maybe it's slightly out of sync or something. I'll come visit it later. But that version I think is actually much superior. It's actually the Project Diva animation itself, where, you know, Miku Hatsune dances to the Ivan polka. And so I not only worked on getting that on the avatar, which that alone is not that hard, but the thing that did make it start taking more time is I started realizing I could reuse just a couple of the particle systems, not do anything too elaborate, but something that just kind of adds a niceness to it. And since this isn't one of my old 1 minute long things, it basically meant, you know, every time I would go to fast forward to a part, I'd have to, you know, well, I can't fast forward. So if I modified a part that's 1.5 minutes into the animation, I would have to rewatch the first 1.5 minutes just to see, okay, yeah, that looks about right. And it's really just more about timing certain particle things to happen. It's not that hard. It really helps that the song is really damn close to 2 beats a second, so a beat every half second. So you can kind of time particle systems around that. Although there are a couple of parts in the song that mess up that tempo deliberately. So, yeah. But, you know, it basically meant I spent a lot more time this weekend working on that than maybe I normally would have. But, oh well. Let's see. But now I've done that, I've basically... So, my default animation controller that I use to start all avatars, including this main one, which has had its animation controller for a hell of a long time. Normally, I only have slots for 16 animations. That would be 8 of them that are immobile. The avatar doesn't move, but 8 of them where it does move. So, since I want to kind of increase the number on there, I'm needing to work on adding additional slots. And that's a lot more work than you might think, even if you're aware of VR chat avatar stuff. And it's also similar to why the other stuff took a little bit of time, because the first issue is, okay, yes, so you have your FX controller and you have the thing there and you have your slots for 8 dances. Technically it's not 8, it's slots for 16, technically it's 18, because 2 of the mobile ones have options for start of a loop, so that maybe you can do the start of an animation and then have one that loops infinitely. You can think of, well, I'm not going to make any examples there. But okay, yeah, so if I add, 18 more things, yeah, sure, I can make all the connections. But then I have to do that again on the action layer. There's a completely separate controller there that you have to do. And so the 2 layers are kind of needed, and you kind of want to use the same animation for both. You don't have to. You might actually be able to save some space if it doesn't reuse them. Probably reuses them. But one of the advantages of having the same animation in both is it is very common for these animations to do two things at the same time. One of them is move your avatar around. The second one is to drive things on the avatar, like turn a music on, or turn a particle system on, or turn an item on, stuff like that. And because of that combination of things, the action layer needs to be turned on in order to move your avatar, because the FX layer doesn't move the avatar. So you need a copy of your animations, your emotes, there, as well as at level 5, or on layer 5, the FX layer. And then in the FX layer, you're going to need it there just to turn all the stuff on. Now, normally I play around in the FX layer because in I have to double check if I did that. Normally you have to play around you want to play around in the FX layer, because when you put the FX controller in the animator for your base avatar, which is populated into VRChat empty and with whatever VRChat puts in there, and normally if you do that, then when you play in Unity, you can actually see the results of your avatar playing. There may be other tools out there that help you, but that's the way that I do it with base Unity, basically. Okay, you say that doesn't sound too bad. That's just, doing it twice. Well, I have to do it 2 more times as well. The third time is because I have one layer that is dedicated to making sure the facial blend shapes that my main avatar uses are duplicated on my doll. And the reason for that is because the doll has a mode where it's just imitating what I'm doing, which includes imitating Visime stuff. But in order to do that, I basically need like 3 separate things. I need something that causes the doll's blinking animation. I think, that one needs to be turned off by, weighted to 0 by default. Always playing at the same time. My main avatar's one, so that both animations are in sync. And when I want to turn the doll's blinking on, I just set the weight to 1. Same thing for the hand gesture, because my avatar has the ability to close our eyes when they do the open hand. It's a common thing, I think. And then the final one is when my avatar is doing emotes, and those emotes have facial sting. If the doll is copying what I'm doing, then the doll needs a copy of the animations that drives the blend shapes, because the shape of the doll itself can't be driven by the same animations, because those are animator humanoid rigged stuff, which is pretty common. But the real problem is, that probably caused it to do something interesting. But the final one is the animation, a copy of the animations that plays on the doll independently of my avatar, so that my avatar could just still be doing stuff, but I'm using the doll to do these dances, and I could, watch the doll do them as well. So that's 4 copies of it that I have to make, and I have to just do it slow and carefully and make sure every value of every transition is correct and everything is there and ready to go. And probably I'm going to do it in groups of 8 animations. First I'll do the immobile ones, because I think the next thing I want to do is I want to put some holiday themed dances that I've made over the years onto the avatar, and I'm probably going to do 4 specific ones. The avatar's already gotten bigger quicker than I would have thought. So I'm basically asking myself, well, those 4 things I really want on the avatar, so I'm going to put those on there. They're fun things, I guess. But because I'm working on all that stuff, that basically means I'm highly distracted by avatar stuff and VRChat, and just mostly asking myself the question of, what point do I want to be at in all this stuff? And I think the answer is on Sunday when Moth does her VRChat meetup. Y'all probably don't know her. She's just a Twitch streamer that I watch and hang out with, and throw things at on the Twitch stream. Anyways, it'd probably be nice to have those. I think, though, since she's seen pretty much all those animations, it's not going to be much to it, but I still want to do that. I guess it's a goal. We'll have to see. I'm not going to try to rush it. That's right. I do have to say that it's very possible that next week my anime DVD collection update may end up being later. I'm not entirely sure, because there's a company event happening Tuesday, and I wasn't originally going to go because I'd have to go way too out of my way for how little energy I have, and I just want to last until my PTO. But Sounds like the company execs are making it mandatory. So I guess I'm gonna have to figure that out. But that happens Tuesday next week. Just trying to make sure I'm doing the math correctly. Actually, it's Wednesday next week. I guess the video won't be delayed. So, that's good for y'all. Okay. But is there anything else to talk about? Can't think of anything in particular. Y'all, have a nice week.